Heavy metal singer Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. The rock music icon's death coming just weeks after performing his farewell concert with his former band, Black Sabbath. His family confirmed his death in a statement saying, quote, "Our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love." Andrew Freund joins us now. He is a television host and entertainment news reporter. So thank you so much for helping us understand just the legacy that Ozzy Osbourne brings. I mean, it goes back to the 60s. If you could briefly describe the influence that he had on the music industry.
Yeah, Jerika. I mean, Ozzy Osbourne was the godfather of heavy metal music. Of course, he was one of the co-founders of Black Sabbath, which really, got its start in the late 60s. And, the sound of heavy metal was kind of the antithesis of what we were seeing during, the early 60s, the mid 60s of Peace and Love. When Black Sabbath's album, their debut album came out in 1970, it was loud, it was dense, it was angry, and Ozzy was really, responsible for shaping that sound of music. And, without Ozzy Osbourne, there probably wouldn't be Metallica, there probably wouldn't be Golden Gun N' Roses, there probably wouldn't be Slipknot. So Ozzy's legacy is gonna live on forever for sure.
Talk to us about how he was able to transcend, the metal genre, the heavy metal genre, and become a cultural icon. Because I was speaking to someone earlier today, and I was saying my real sort of introduction to him and his music was in the early 2000s when he was on a show called The Osbournes.
Yeah, I mean, Drika, the same thing. I was thinking, back when I first saw that show, I knew Ozzy's music, obviously, but he kind of became America's dad, and they were kind of like this dysfunctional family. And this was before the Kardashians. This what didn't even they didn't even exist at that point
Right.
on television.
Hmm.
So they were really at the forefront of reality TV. So he kind of had this second wave in the early aughts, being on that show. And then that show, obviously, his music came back into fruition, and it springboarded more albums and more music. And a whole new generation of people just fell in love with the guy.
If you could, before you go, tell us how the music world is reacting. Now because of social media and Instagram, people can quickly sort of express how they feel. They don't have to wait for a publicist. But what are people saying?
Yeah, it's funny. I was just looking. David Letterman posted an old interview he did with Ozzy Osbourne where he asked him about the bat, the famous story
Mm.
about Ozzy. And it turns out that bat, Ozzy thought it was a toy. So that's why he did that. Um, but also, we saw Elton John did a post about how he was such a funny guy. And
Mm.
I had the opportunity to interview Ozzy a few times. And that was one of the things that struck me was he was a really funny guy. I remember just
Mhm.
sitting down with him while they were setting up the lights, and he was cracking jokes. He's saying a lot of four-letter words that I can't repeat on television. And people are just regarding him as that kind of godfather of heavy metal. Rob Zombie did a post, Metallica also did a post. And, the music industry is mourning a heavy, heavy loss today.
Yeah, I think people respect his authenticity. He wasn't trying to be anybody but Ozzy Osbourne. Andrew Freund, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Drika.